Good morning, everyone. It's Karen Williams here. Welcome to your Brekkie event. I'm really excited to be with you again this morning and welcome you into this conversation about emotions. So welcome. I know that everyone's jumping on in the middle of your morning. You might be bringing your Brekkie, or you might be dealing with kids, or you might be out on your walk. So wherever you are this morning, I really welcome you. Thank you for being here and thank you for taking some time to invest in yourself. I know that it can be challenging sometimes to take that time out for ourselves, especially when we're feeling so responsible to everyone else, to our team, to our work, to our family, to our partner, and to our extended family, to our friends. So it's really important that we take this time, isn't it? And we know that self-love and self-care is very important to our well-being and to our sanity, but we don't always take the time. And if we were advising our friends, we would tell them to invest in themselves and take some time. We don't always do it ourselves, so I really acknowledge you for doing that and welcome. So just let me know that you can hear me and that you're here. It'd be great to know that I can connect with you on the other side of the camera. So just pop in the chat box to say hello and that you can hear me loud and clear. Georgie is reading out your questions today, and also she's monitoring the chat box so that she'll be able to welcome you and say hello as well in a moment. So Georgie, just let me know when anyone is hearing me and if we're all okay and good to go, because I don't want to be talking to myself, although I do that a lot. So how are we going, Georgie?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, we're all here. We've got a lot of people saying good morning from Tassie.
Good morning from Tassie. Fantastic.
Also, all good.
Oh, good. I know we've got people from New Zealand. I know we've got people from around Victoria and also interstate from Queensland as well, and New South Wales. So welcome, maybe other areas as well. I'm hoping that you can hear Georgie this time. Our first trial in this format last time, it was a little bit muffled at times, but so we've set it up a little bit differently. So just let us know that you can hear Georgie as well, because she's going to be reading out your questions. So I'm excited to hear your questions as we go through. Please feel free to just open up and share or comment, or if you want me to clarify anything, it helps me to know what's landing for you, what resonates. If you want something else explained a little bit more deeply. Excellent. So this world of emotions we'll be talking about, and why are we doing it via this format? When everything happened in Australia about 10 weeks ago and COVID-19 hit our shores and life changed for us, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, how do I now provide support for you? And we were having our Brekkie events for the last 12 months, which were really beautiful live face-to-face events. And I decided I'd love to try and put these online because I thought it would be fun and I really wanted to connect with you. And so we thought we'd give it a go, and we did. And we've had amazing feedback, and we've been able to bring together into this community a lot more people who are able to enjoy this feeling of belonging and connection. It's interesting, a woman shared with me last week that even though she can't see anyone else except for me, she feels like part of something and feels like she's connecting and tapping into something. So that's really beautiful to hear, and I hope that you get some sense of that today. I want to welcome those people who are here for the first time. Thank you for jumping in. Something connected and resonated for you, so I hope that you gain value. My intention is that you will. And welcome to the people who've been coming back time and time again, because you're doing the work and you're taking yourself on, and you know that transformation doesn't happen in one moment or one Brekkie event. You know that it takes time. So welcome to you as well, and I'm really pleased and grateful that you're here. I've been a transformational coach and trainer for 20 years this year, but on my own personal growth journey for longer than that as well. And even in these situations and times like this, which is, it might be a crisis or a challenge, or even if we're going through a personal challenge at other times, sometimes we fall off, don't we? We go asleep and we're not aware or awake to our triggers or our emotions. And that's when we can get tripped up and we can start to project or take our emotions out on other people, and those we love the most as well. So today I want to talk to you a bit about why emotions are important to understand, what happens when we deny them, and how we can embrace them so that we can be the full and expressive, powerful, influential leader that we really want to be. And whether that's a leader with a formal title, or whether that's a leader of our family or in our friendship group, or just of our own lives. So that's what we're talking about today. I hope you've got your journal and pen or your notebook, because I'm going to be giving you some time. I'm going to stop talking sometimes through the session today, and I'm going to give you just some time to reflect, make some notes, and even think about a question or two that you might like to ask. And that really helps with the processing and also helps you later with your implementation. I also encourage you to take notes, because as you write down what you're hearing and maybe what's connecting for you, then after the call or over the weekend, you might sit down with a cup of tea or a glass of wine, whatever is true for you, and reflect and see what is it that you want to implement. Because I'm very much about so what, now what? What's going to be different in your life because we spent this hour together? So that's my intention. I hope that's yours too. A woman shared with me that she didn't think that she'd need to take any notes, but about 10 minutes into the session, she ran away and grabbed her notebook and came back, because she was starting to have some new thoughts in her own mind, just triggered by this conversation. So I'm sure that that will be true for you. So let me know if all good, Georgie. Looks like we've got lots of comments coming through. So thank you so much for letting us know that you're here. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this conversation with you. All right, so first piece I want to give you is about what happens when we deny our emotions. What happens when we push them down or ignore them or pretend that they're not there. One of the questions that comes up for me, and has come up for me many times, is what's the difference between feelings and emotions? And I wonder if that question might be there for you as well. And it's a complex world. We've only really been digging into this world of emotions for the last 2 decades. And whether that's psychology or neuroscience, medicine, even natural medicine, so kinesiology, acupuncture, all of those practices are dealing with the physical situation, but also emotional impact of our emotions on our body and our lives. And so this is a very new world for us as a species, and it's exciting to me because I've done a lot of those 2 decades myself, working through my own emotions. So I look forward to hearing from you how your emotions are impacting you. So got your pen, got your notebook, got your cup of tea, got your earplugs in if need be, and here we go. All right, so if you're in the space of denying emotions, that's going to impact your life in quite a significant way, and I'll show you why. If we're in denial of our emotions over time, then what's going to happen is that we're going to be suppressing our emotions naturally, kind of like an everyday occurrence, because we're in the habit of doing it. So if we're in the habit of not really allowing ourselves to feel or acknowledge, that's going to turn into suppression. And when we start to suppress, or that's something that we've done over time, that turns into a feeling of resentment. And so we can start to feel resentful of people, of situations. We can go further into comparison of ourselves with others. We can wish that we were or had what someone else might have, whether that's a feeling or confidence or a relationship or an outcome. And we can get really jealous as well. So if those feelings are coming up for you, there might be a clue for you to go, hang on, you know what, maybe I need to start to feel my emotions a little bit more. But see, if we're starting to feel resentment or jealousy, they're the last things we want to give space to, aren't they? But there's exactly where we need to go to start to liberate ourselves from this place of feeling stuck because of our emotions. So if you're denying your emotions over time, and most of us, by the way, have been doing that, because from birth, where we learn to disconnect from the authentic guidance within us, and we start to behave in ways that others prefer, because that feels good when we make others happy. And so we start to guide ourselves by what others want from us, not from what our inner guidance and our inner emotions are telling us. So that's the reason for this pull away from our understanding our emotions. So we want to start to reconnect back with that understanding. You with me? So if we're not yet at suppression, we're going to be in denial or denying of our emotions. So when we're denying over and over again, so I feel sadness, let's just get on with life. I feel upset or disappointment, I've got more to do today, I need to get through it. So that is what I'm talking about when we talk about denial. I feel disappointed in what my partner's just done, I'm just going to forget it and just move on and kind of make excuses. So that is what I'm calling denial, yes? And when we're in denial, we're in a state of disconnection. About 20 years ago, so I was about 32, I landed in Santorini, and it was in the middle of the night, and I was in the middle of what turned out to be a 7-month holiday in Europe and the States. And I was to be picked up, I was to meet my partner. We were travelling independently but also travelling together. And my partner was going to pick me up from the dock in Santorini after I got off the ferry. And so in the middle of the night, we were backpacking in those days with my huge backpack. I turned up and my partner wasn't there, but our mutual friend was there on a little scooter. And in that moment, I felt really disappointed and really let down because I hadn't seen my partner in weeks. And I was really excited that we were going to spend some time together. So here I was faced by our wonderful friend. So I was really grateful and pleased by that. But, you know, in the back of my mind were this sadness and disappointment and hurt and rejection. So we got on the scooter, made our way up the mountains and into our space where we were staying, and I can't even remember what it's called, but it was beautifully white with blue. If you remember, if you've ever been to Santorini, maybe a villa or a hotel. And so then what I discovered when I walked in the door, my partner had decided to take a nap instead of come and pick me up. So further rejection and further hurt. But instead of expressing it, because at that time I did not know about this, instead of feeling it and expressing it in the emotion, cleanly in the moment to let my partner know where I was at, I pushed it down, pretended everything was fine and just got on with it. Of course, that turned into a major argument 5 days later, which was about something that was really insignificant. And I know you've had this experience. And this is what I'm talking about when we deny our emotions. It causes disconnect within ourselves and disconnect with the people around us. We think that we're just getting on with it, but actually we're not. Our emotions don't disappear. And the difference between feelings and emotions is really important here, because feelings are something that, and this is one of the definitions, are expressed in the moment or felt in the moment, so a conscious awareness, whereas emotions are subconscious and pushed down and affect our behaviour in ways that we don't even realise they're affecting or impacting or driving. So we've got to get really clear on this world of emotions to understand whether we're actually choosing our behaviour or we're just reacting asleep and just producing the same outcome over time. So let me know if you're with me. It'd be really helpful for me to know if this is connecting for you, if it's resonating, if you're getting value out of this conversation so far. All right, so okay, so fair enough, Karen. So I've been denying my emotions. Now what am I going to do about it, right? So there's 3 A's here. Okay, first A, this is our flip point out of denial, okay? The first A is I need to accept that I have emotions. Especially as women, and these Brekkie events are for women in leadership, designed specifically for women in leadership, but this is true for men as well. And so acceptance is about knowing that we are feeling beings. We are not just thinking beings, we are feeling beings, and that's a really important distinction. And if we can accept that we have emotions, then that's our way out of denial. Because as you know, when we're denying our emotions, we're asleep to what's really going on and we're just reacting, okay? So acceptance. The next step is acknowledgement. I need to acknowledge and name my emotions. Yeah. So I accept that I'm a feeling being and I have emotions. Now I'm starting to get scared because I know that that's going to bring out a feeling or an experience that I've been running away from for a long time. But I'm going to tell you why it's important shortly. So acceptance, just need to acknowledge and name those emotions. So the way that we do that, one of the ways that we can do that, and I'm going to talk about this a bit later, is to stop and breathe and just go, okay, what is it that I'm feeling right now? Is it sadness? Is it feeling alone? Is it joy? Is it pleasure? Is it, I can't believe how excited I am? Let me express that. So what is the emotion that you're feeling? So an acknowledgement. And then a practice of awareness. So the awareness is then in any moment that we're in a meeting or in a conversation with our children or having an argument with our partner or having a beautiful intimate embrace with our partner, we have the awareness of the emotions that are running through us. And if we can breathe into that and start to own and accept that, that allows us to show up in a whole new way with the fullness of ourselves. Whereas before we're showing up as a small amount of ourselves because we're half present, because we're busy denying our emotions. You with me so far? Georgina, any comments or questions just to know everyone's with me so far?
Yeah, we've got a couple. One says, definitely good to recognise the difference between feelings and emotions.
Yep.
And Marty says, makes sense, sounds so clear now.
Fabulous, excellent, good so far. All right, so when we're in acceptance and acknowledgement, so I want to put some three things here. So acceptance is about self-responsibility. So we have to take 100% responsibility to even accept that we have emotions. Yes, I'm a feeling being. I'm going to take responsibility for actually being a feeling being. So that's the distinction of self-responsibility, yeah? The next one, what have I got here, is self-reckoning. So when we acknowledge and name, that's where the self-reckoning comes in. That's some of the work of becoming more self-aware. So if I acknowledge that I'm feeling jealous, if I acknowledge that I'm feeling guilty, if I acknowledge that I'm feeling not enough or shameful or embarrassed or any emotion, then that's the reckoning with myself. Those are the moments where I've actually got to come into, I'm sort of facing myself in the mirror and going, you know what? I've got all of these things going on inside me, and if I can just be with them and own them, I can feel my power starting to expand, yes? And so from there to awareness, this is the beautiful place of self-trust. We start to build a place of self-trust. And self-trust is essential if we're going to trust others. Because here's the thing about trust, and it's a big topic. The thing about trust is we're waiting for someone else to change their behaviour so we can trust them more. The thing that we don't talk about with trust is it starts with self-trust. Because when I'm trusting myself, you can behave however you want to behave, and then I can choose to engage or not, rather than me being dependent on you to change yourself so that I can feel differently. So when we're doing that, it has a huge impact on our freedom and our feeling of wholeness and our ability to express ourselves and be the leader that we want to be. So self-trust is really key, and this is how we start to build it. Question? We got any questions? Did you have a comment or something, Georgie, that you wanted to share? All good? Cool. All right, so then from here, are you with me so far? Just give me a thumbs up in the chat box to let me know that you're with me. So this is the pivot point, right? Cool. And so when we go from there, when we start to become more aware and build this self-trust, then it's about embrace. Remember I said this conversation today is about embracing our emotions so we can be our most powerful self. So I'm going to give you a moment, stop in a moment and give you a chance to reflect on where you might be. So embracing our emotions, and that is about courage, right? If I can embrace my emotions, in a world that tells me I shouldn't be emotional, and within maybe a relationship where emotions aren't welcome and I'm told I'm too emotional, by the way, I've been told that many times over my life, and it took me until I started to do this work to actually be not called that anymore and own my emotions and be them and then express them in a healthy way and allow that to guide me. So that's when I noticed people stopped calling me too emotional or too much. I've even been called too much before. And it's not that they were right and I was wrong, it's just that what I understood was I'd been denying and suppressing my emotions, that they were just spurting out at times when people were like, whoa, yeah, it was kind of a disproportionate reaction. And I'm like, no, I'm just a passionate person. Well, true, but I wasn't processing my emotions in a healthy way and doing this work, yeah? And then the last piece here is embody. I love this word here, embody or embodiment. John Wineland is an expert in masculine, feminine, men and women, and that could be, we have masculine and feminine in all of us, so it doesn't mean men are all masculine, women are all feminine. But John Wineland, he does great work around embodiment for men and women in our masculine, feminine energies. And that was a big part of my journey as well. So when we embody our emotions and all of ourselves, this is when, I missed one piece, but that's a matter. I missed one piece, but freedom, connection, and flow. This freedom and connection that we're seeking, so here's the thing, masculine searches for freedom, so the masculine is always striving to feel free. So that's why you might experience, if you're in a heterosexual relationship sometimes, the man's always running, trying to get away into his man cave. So that's the search for freedom, whereas a feminine drive or need is for connection. So there's push-pull that goes on within us and also in our relationships. But this is the state that we're searching for, but we're usually down here searching for it, yes? So we need to do this work, and then what's the byproduct of this work is this, yeah? You with me so far? Give me a thumbs up, let me know if this is making sense, if you're resonating with this. Cool so far? All right.
Thumbs up, resonating, yes, thumbs Thumbs up.
Thumbs up, thumbs up. So now I'm going to give you a moment to stop and pause and identify where you are here, where you might be, and it might just be, in some areas you might be up here, but in one relationship or one situation at work or with one person in your life, a friend, or maybe with yourself, you might be down here. So I'm just going to ask you to choose in one area where you might be less than here. Yep, because these we want to keep going with your here, with wherever you are in your life in this area. But if you're somewhere down here, then it's important to acknowledge it. So it takes courage, so I'm going to ask you to do that. So I'm just going to stop for a moment and give you a chance to reflect and do that. All right. We've got a question coming through. What's the question, Georgie?
Yeah, we've got an interesting question from Catherine. How do you deal with others' outbursts in a way that doesn't feel judgmental to them?
Yes.
But then she follows on to say, or is the whole point that you cannot change others?
Such a good question. And yes, to the second part, if you've ever tried to change someone, whether that's in a relationship or like a personal relationship at work, you know that that's exhausting and doesn't work in the end, and it just makes for a lot of pain, doesn't it? So yes, we can't change others, we can influence. I'm very much about influence. A lot of the work that I do with leaders and teams is about understanding what's going on behind in our unconscious so that we can support people to shift their behaviour, yep? But we've got to shift their thinking to do that. So yes, we can influence people, but trying to change someone, no. But to influence, we actually need to be doing the work ourselves. So if we've got someone who's responding emotionally to us and we don't know what to do, it's because we're not doing enough work ourselves. And that can sometimes be hard to hear. I'm not saying you're not doing the work. Let's go next level, right? Because you can't hold a space for someone to go through their emotions and do what they need to do and process and come out of it unless you have that capacity and you've done the work for yourself, yep? So if someone's coming at you with strong emotions and you can just be and not react, and that's hard. To do that, you need to have been doing this work, the self-awareness work. Now, if that's a work situation, it's not your job to be a counsellor or a therapist or even a coach all the time. But as a leader and a manager, or someone who wants to influence at work, even if you don't have a formal title, being able to influence is really important, and we can only do that if we're aware of ourselves. I hope that helps. Let me know if you've got more on that. Any other questions or comments, Georgie?
Okay, we're just asking if when I read a question, if you could repeat it, because people are actually
not hearing you. Okay, so it's still muffled? Okay. Yeah. We're working on the technology for that, and having Georgie ask the questions helps me because then I can flow with you, but so I totally get the feedback. So I will definitely ask the questions again. So Georgie, go.
So there's another one. What do you do with emotions that aren't rational or helpful, e.g. frustration at changing requirements when you just need to get it done?
Yes.
A partner who is late from work, when you just need to get on with things and reactions aren't helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, what do I do when there's someone bringing their emotion, I'm just remembering the question, and it's not helpful in the moment. So someone might be feeling frustrated and they may be expressing that in the moment, and what you want to do is just get on with maybe getting dinner or getting the kids sorted, or I think that's the question. And so the answer is, and maybe you're not going to like this, but the answer is you've got to give them the space. Let them be frustrated. They can be frustrated and get on with it. They can be frustrated and make dinner. They can be frustrated and do the washing. We don't have to be all pleasant about it. If you're frustrated with their frustration, then there's something in there for you about what's not resolved within you. There's something in you about a judgment around having emotions, because all emotions are valid and welcome and helpful and useful and informative. And that's the point. So we can get easily triggered by someone else's emotion, but that's a message to us. What's going on here that I'm triggered by that? That's the inquiry, that's the work, and that's not easy. Yeah, even after 20 years of doing the work, it's not easy, and sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I want to blame them, okay? So I'm hoping that answers the question. I guess it's probably not what you want to hear, but allowing people to have their emotion and make a request anyway. Or, you know what, when you do that and you come home with your emotion, actually this is what happens for me. And we can get on with it anyway. So you've got to own your reaction is the key here, yeah? Let me know if that helps or not. All right, any other comments or questions?
All good.
All good, excellent. So we'll keep going. So I'm hoping that you've picked where you are and in one area of your life. So if you're in denial, if you may be starting to pivot and starting to understand how to move up into embrace and embody. So I want you to now think of that area and go, okay, if I'm in denial, what's going on? What's the impact of that, okay? What's the impact? And I want to hear from you. What's the impact of being here in denial or suppression of your emotions? What's going on when you're actually pushing them down? Now you might go, that feels much better because I don't have to deal with it, sure. But if we tune in a little bit more and go, what's the impact of denying our emotions? So have a think about that and I want to hear from you. So I'm going to put some up and start. Like I said before, build and our emotions, if we deny them, our emotions are going to be building and exploding in disproportionate ways at inappropriate times. And have you ever had that experience where you look back and go, oh, that was a bit, why did I react like that? When you think about it later, it feels very rational, but in the moment it just was not. And so that's what happens. And that's why we get scared of our emotions too. Because we go, well, if that's my emotions, I ain't going anywhere near there, so I'll just keep pushing them down. But it's the pushing them down that builds them up like a volcano that's going to erupt. So we need to start to move into owning, accepting and acknowledging our emotions so that we don't have those explosions, yeah? They can, if we're in here, we're not present because our emotions and our feelings are distracting us. So have you ever had that experience where you're in a conversation and you're not really there and something is distracting you? There's going to be an emotion connected to that or a feeling connected to that. So when we're in denial of our emotions, they keep us half present. So we can't show up in our full selves. And then we wonder why we don't have the impact that we want to have. Yeah? Share with me your thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the chat box. What happens for you when you deny your emotions? Georgie?
Well, I've got one here, staying an unsatisfying job role.
Yes.
I've got a couple of questions.
So I would say, okay, one sec. I would say staying stuck. So it might be staying stuck. So one of the impacts of denial is staying stuck in the situation. So that might be in a relationship or a family situation or a work situation. So we just get on with it, and over time, you know what happens, yeah? And then eventually we might leave, but it's messy and we leave kind of a mess in our wake, yes? And it's painful. Excellent. Question?
I've got somebody here saying, what about dealing with toxic people in the workplace? Clearly they're in denial, but have a huge impact on business productivity.
Yeah.
Any suggestions?
Yeah, huge. So I was once called toxic, and it went to the core of me. It really hurt, and I was called it by someone that was a mentor to me, and someone I really respected. And it shocked me and that was probably about 8 years ago. And because I'm doing this work and I'm always in this work, I'm always looking for the next level and the next layer for me. So someone to label me toxic was a whole new experience. And I went it was one of those moments, that pivotal moments in your journey where it just takes you on a different inquiry or in a different direction. And it made me go deeper, even deeper into what's going on for me and why we label each other or call our situations toxic. Now, I sometimes use the word toxic now when I'm talking about situations, but I never call anyone toxic. And the reason is because, and this is just an opening or an invitation to open your awareness here, is that we're all going through our own unique personal journey that no one else knows about. We don't necessarily know. I would never have said I was coming across as toxic when I was labelled that or called that. And so, compassion is really important here. And I know that sometimes we feel we don't have time or space for compassion. But in leadership and management, we're responsible for the performance or engagement of people. We need to bring equal measures of accountability and compassion, because that's what builds trust. Now, as I said before, you don't need to be a therapist or a counsellor, but you need to be able to start to understand what's going on for that person, Or in your holding of them accountable, asking them, do they need time? Do they need to take space away? What do they need to be able to be engaged? What do they need to be able to produce this outcome? What do they need from you? What do they need from their home environment? What do they need from a place of self-responsibility? So the first step I would say in directly answering this question is if you can remove yourself from labelling it as toxic for the start and start to bring some awareness and compassion to what might be going on for the person, like what's behind the behaviour. One of the distinctions of my work is separating the person from the behaviour, because otherwise we're just reacting to each other's behaviour all the time, which is what most human beings do. And if we can remove the person from the behaviour, we can deal with the behaviour together. We have to let them know the behaviour is not okay, but we don't box them into a box called toxic, because then there's no way that we can engage or lead them out of that. Does that make sense? So it's a complex topic, as we know, and I'm hoping that a little bit of that might add value for you or give you some sense of how you might approach this differently. We can also, when we're judging others, it can be maybe a reflection of what we haven't owned within ourselves too. And I'm not saying that's true for you, but I know for myself, if I'm judging someone else or someone else is annoying me, there's something going on in here that I haven't resolved. So this is a touchy subject, isn't it? We're kind of digging in a little bit, and I'm glad that we are, and thank you for your questions. I'm hoping this is helping. Any other questions or any other comments so far?
Yeah, there is another question. What about boundaries around behaviour if
Yep.
someone is always in defensive expression of emotion?
Yeah. And so this links into this other question, doesn't it? So the question is, what about boundaries when someone's being really defensive? So if someone's being defensive with you and not engaging with you, I'm guessing that you're wanting to set a boundary to let them know that that behaviour is not okay. Can you just give me a yes if that's what you're asking? Because if someone's being defensive with you, it means you're trying to make a difference and they're actually just keeping you at arm's length. Is that right? And so if that's the case, setting a boundary, that's the case? Okay, okay, good. So setting a boundary then might look like actually a conversation. You know, my sentence, so this might be you having a conversation with them, and this takes courage and emotional awareness. So for example, it might be, you know, when we have conversations, I feel that you're defending yourself from me, and I'm wondering what I might be doing that's causing you to react that way. I'm really curious to know why you feel that you need to defend yourself with me. Could you enlighten me or share with me what's going on for you? Because I'm really interested to know how we can work better together. So can you see that this is about self-responsibility? Most of us, because we don't know how to deal with our own emotions, we don't know how to deal with the emotions and reactions of others. And so this work is so important because of what we can do then and co-create with other people. Otherwise, we're just wondering how to deal with people, and that's a really ineffective way to live our lives. When we do this work on ourselves, then, it's an interesting noise, can you hear that? When we do this work on ourselves, then we'll actually be able to dance in the moment with people who are coming at us with strong emotion or moving away from us with strong emotion, yeah? So it always comes back to the work on yourself. All right, all good?
Yes.
Okay, so impact of being here is I don't know how to deal with other people's emotions, yeah? And it just feels like I'm in a pinball machine reacting off people. And I think that they have to change. That's another impact of being down here, is that other people have to change for the situation to be better. I promise you, we are all doing this. And you've got to get really clear and smart on where you're doing this and where you're wanting someone else or thinking or believing or having true someone else needs to change. It's always here. And that's the opportunity of being a great influencer and a great leader, is to take it back and go, okay, how can I shift this situation by understanding myself better? Yeah. Now, leaders that I work with who've been very successful in their careers and are coming up with challenges with maybe one particular person, when they start to do this deeper work on themselves, they have extraordinary changes in the other person just by them shifting. Now, it doesn't mean we take the blame, but we grow as a human being. You with me? So we always think it's we wait. So the impact of being here is that we have to wait for others to change. And that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So you'll stay stuck. Cool?
Yeah, we've got a couple of others. Impact.
Yeah.
Well, we do do finally react, it all comes out wrong, clouded in emotion.
So good, yes. So it kind of comes out all, I'm going to put clouded and messy and clouded and unclear and maybe hurtful. You know, maybe when we're reacting like that, it can come out hurtful for ourselves and others as well, because we can feel bad about ourselves once we've pushed it out onto someone else, can't we? Any other impacts?
And another one is you beat yourself up as you accept behaviours that aren't good for you.
Yes. So, and that comes back to that boundary question. If we're down here and then we're guarded, because you're going to be guarded when you're down here, and then someone's being emotional with us or we're not able to respond well to their emotions, then we've got this major disconnect between each other, haven't we? And we're both waiting for each other to go first. I call it the 50-50 dance. Waiting for each other to do something different so that things can change. You'll wait forever. And that's a very boring situation. You're better than that. And when I say you, I mean all of us are better than that. There's more awareness available to us as we go on this journey, yeah? So yes, we end up then beating ourselves up for accepting this bad behaviour because we haven't set a boundary and going, you know what, when you do that, I know you're frustrated, but it doesn't work for me for you to take it out on me. I need you to take your frustration somewhere else and I'm going to deal with whatever I need to deal with here. So that's a boundary, and someone was sharing earlier that that's really important to set. We don't have to, if we're doing this journey, it doesn't mean we're just a walkover. It means we're even more discerning, even more wise of what we'll accept and not accept, because we're more clean in our energy, and I'll talk about clean energy in a moment. Cool? All right, so if you've got this impact, and if there's one here that you haven't put on your list, I encourage you to put it on your list. So if you're down here in denial and suppression, and you've got this impact going on, how's that feeling? Tell me, how's that feeling? I'd love to know. I'll give you a moment to pop it in the chat box. Georgie, can you just show me the time again, please? So is it feeling upset, frustrated? Are you disappointed? Are you angry? Are you confused? Talk to me about how that's feeling. When you're in denial of your emotions, and again, most of us are at some level, and this is the impact and more, because you think of the impact on other people as well when you're not owning your emotions. When we're in relationship, and no matter whether that's an intimate relationship or friends, family, so on, if we're not in our full self, people aren't getting all of us, but they're also confused and wondering what's going on with us. So they feel like they need to withdraw and trust is not so present. Georgie?
Yeah, we've got heavy, stressful, gloomy, frustrated, sad.
Heavy, stressful, gloomy.
Frustrated.
Sad.
Destructive.
Yes.
Disempowering. Disappointed at self. Feeling disconnected and alone. Blocked. That's a good one. Yeah.
They're such good words. Yeah. Frustrated, vulnerable. And vulnerable is an interesting word, isn't it? Because in this context, I imagine you mean that doesn't feel good to be in that vulnerable space. Heavy, stressed, destructive, disconnected, gloomy, blocked.
Another one, a loop plays in my head.
Yeah, going over and over. Self-analysis, right? We go away and go, yeah, so we all do that, don't we? So many of us go down and down into our analytical minds of how we should have done something, what should have said, what they should have done, what they should have said. If we had said this, what it would have been different. And we over-analyse, don't we? And it's exhausting. I'm going to put up here exhausted because I'm exhausted thinking about it. I used to be an overthinker. Sometimes I still catch myself. But yes, I've practiced myself out of that. And it is possible to change your patterns. Very good. All right, so I want you to write down any of these words that feel true for you that you haven't grabbed. So when you're denying your emotions, and this is the impact and how it feels for you, and it's going to give you a moment to do that. All right. So I reckon we don't want to stay here, do you? I certainly don't want to stay here when I'm here. So when we're looking at understanding our emotions, and up until now you might have thought, well, that person is the emotional one and they need to deal with their emotions so that I can feel better and the situation can improve and we can get things done. I hope now you're starting to see that it's not just that person, that you've got situations, things going on in your mind where you're denying your emotions too and you're not owning your full self. And so they're causing an impact in you and then they're causing a feeling in you. And without you knowing it, that's part of what you're bringing to this situation as well. And this is when we start to go into courage. Because to embrace our emotions requires courage. To embrace the feelings of, sometimes feeling embarrassed or a bit ashamed or sad or lonely, disconnected. Embracing those things can kind of feel a bit, right? But that's when we start to, I promise you, that's our power is through that doorway, not on the other side back there. Yeah, our full power is through that doorway, and our ability and power to influence others comes with it. Comment or question?
Yeah, I do have one comment. How do you deal with resentment of an old situation that is still impacting current situations?
Yeah. Resentment is a big one, isn't it? Because resentment often comes from when we've given and given and given over time and we don't get the same back, and we can go into, or we don't feel taken care of the way that we've taken care of others, or we don't feel, or we've given our trust and then trust is broken and maybe over and over. So there's a deep resentment. Resentment is one of those really deep emotions that leaks out into all areas of our lives. And so so the question was, how do we deal with resentment, Georgie?
From an old situation that is impacting today.
So I'm not an advocate for going back to the past and analysing that whole situation. Neuroscience tells us that 50% of what we think has happened in the past is actually not true. So we make up 50% of our past and then we feel victim to it and wish something had been different, right? That was a bit of a wake up for me when I realised maybe all the things that I've got going on back there about stories aren't actually true. And so if we can accept that, okay, we had a past and there's things that happened, it's important to go back to the emotion, and when the emotion was triggered and understand the pattern and the thought that was triggered because of that, right? And then when we get to the thought pattern, so I want to go thought, feeling, behaviour, emotion, right? So that says emotion, yep. So if I can get back to the thought that created my resentment, then I can undo that and choose a different belief. So the resentment is going to be coming from a thought pattern that's embedded now, that now is a belief for you, and that's what you've got to get to. So rather than analysing the situation that happened before, I just want you to get to the thought. And you can do that by going back here. What's my behavioural patterns? What's the feeling? And then going back to that place of understanding, well, what did I make that mean? And one of the distinctions Brené Brown uses is the story I'm telling myself, yeah? And so what I would do is what I call it is what happened and what I made it mean, yeah? And so, what happened is a situation or someone did something, what I made it mean was, here, the thought is the thought that I had, and then I made that the truth, as in they are that way, or I am this way, or this is this way, or this is how life is. So I made a thought, and then that turns into a belief. Because once we have a thought, then our brain goes looking for evidence to prove ourselves right. And so then we just think that thought over and over again, and we start to create a filter, and that's called a belief, yeah? And so then that turns into resentment. So we've got to get back to, or not back to, but we've got to open up our awareness to what's the belief pattern and then shift that. I hope that's helpful. Yeah?
I got a wow.
A wow? Excellent. These are some of the core things. I'm giving you so much here because I just love giving, right? So I'm sure you do too. And I want to make these valuable. This is the stuff I do in my coaching, right? So I hope that you're taking this down and it's resonating for you. And even if this wasn't your question, that you're looking through this lens for your own question, yeah? All right, so we're good? Okay. Right, excellent. So the 3 things I want to give you to help you get out of this, right? I've just looked at the time, that's why I said right. Okay, I need to move. So we need to understand our emotions because, and as I said before, we need to be clean in our communication. So when we're doing this work, we can be clean in our communication, yep? When we're doing this work, we can be available and present to others, and we can deal with someone who's being emotional with an open mind rather than our own emotional reaction, yes? And the 3rd reason is because we can listen and ask questions by being present. When we're not present and in our own emotional reaction to their emotional reaction, because some of the questions that come through today, and it's natural, what do I do with this person who's frustrated? What do I do with this person who's so-and-so? Well, then we're having an emotional reaction, so we're not fully there. Okay, so being present allows us to listen in new ways, hear new things from them, separate the person from the behaviour, and ask different questions. It unlocks their potential. Cool? All right, so now I'm going to give you 3 things that will help you. All right, I'm going to rub some of this off. I hope you're listening quickly. I hope you're getting it all down. Give me some feedback, a thumbs up to just let me know that all is well. Or thumbs down if all's not well. But I'm hoping that it is because it feels good to me. All right, so this is 3 things I want to give you, right? But this phrase here is gold, and I love it. And I heard it from one of my dear friends yesterday when I watched one of her YouTube, Facebook Lives. These are the 3 things that are going to help you move up here and not have any of these things and move into a state of freedom, connection, and flow. Do you want that? Yes. All right. So this first one is called Be Emotionally, God, I love this, current. Oh my God, this is so good. Be emotionally current, right? Martina Hughes, one of my beautiful friends and was my mentor a number of years ago, works deep in the space of energy. She was sharing about men and women in relationships and the dynamic of masculine and feminine. It's one of my favourite topics, and I've learned a lot myself over the years on this. Emotionally current. Write this down. Emotionally current is, if I can show up in my space right now and breathe my feelings and tell you how frustrated I am, not from a place of blaming or judging or projecting onto you, but I can just go, you know what, I am so frustrated right now, and I can feel it and I can be it, and I'm not bringing the resentments from the past and the 10 other things that you annoyed me with that I haven't told you about, and the things that I know that you're going to do in the future that are really going to pee me off. If I can just be here in this moment and feel my feelings and share them with you, that is being emotionally current, and that is powerful, because the person with us can respond to that rather than know that they're being blamed for all these other things that you're bringing with you. All that emotional baggage, maybe from past relationships or past situations or past employers or past team members, right? Leave that behind because you're doing this work and you can be in your full feeling and experience right then. So powerful. If you just get this one thing today, get this, emotionally current. I'm going to be using this. I asked Martina if I could quote it. She said absolutely. So use this. All right. So to do that, we need to be able to, do all the self-care practices you've heard me talk about before. If you've been with me on this journey, you know that self-care practices are so important. They're like the bread and butter of our lives. So that comes down to meditation, journaling, dancing, shaking, time in nature. Yep, all of that stuff. So that will help you stay emotionally current and help you shake off some of this stuff, because we've got to shake it up, yeah? All right, then the next thing is, that's a really bad circle. So this is the solution, yeah? Make your choices. Yeah, and this is 100% responsibility. So you're emotionally current, so you're present in the moment, you're feeling your emotions, and you're making your choices. So knowing your triggers, giving up your excuses, choosing, are you going to stay in this environment or not? Choosing your relationship moment by moment, choosing where you work moment by moment, choosing this frustrating team member moment by moment. Make your choices. You are responsible for your choices. Everything else is an excuse. And that's hard to deal with, I know, but it's on this journey, yeah? And assume the best in others as well, but also take time out for yourself and understand that their stuff is their stuff and all you can do is make your own choices. Yep. And then the last piece is be clean in your energy. Can you let me know that this is helping in your understanding? Can you give me a yes or a thumbs up or yep, I got it in the chat box just to let me know this is connecting for you and you're getting it? Because we deep dived in this, I want you to get this to take you through this. Yeah? All good? Yeah. All right, so being clean in your energy means, and I call it leaky. So we're not leaking all over each other, as in, I'm feeling frustrated, it's your fault, so I'm going to put it on you. Yep. I'm responsible for what's going on here, and I'm going to communicate in a clean way. So it's almost like I've got this beautiful space of integrity within me. This is you speaking in me, so that I can communicate what I need, when I ask for my needs to be met without attachment. I can share how I feel without expecting anything back from you. Yeah, I can own that. That's a difficult place to be, but it's possible when we're doing this work. Yeah? Cool? Question?
Yeah, we're getting great thumbs up, but we've got a couple of people actually asking about or saying that being vulnerable is negatively impacting them in the workplace. So, where is it here?
So what's coming through is that people are sharing that being vulnerable is negatively impacting them in the workplace.
Yeah.
And how is it impacting them?
Used against them.
Used against them.
Here, often having vulnerability once expressed used against me in the workplace.
Yes.
Another one about the workplace as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it depends on your definition of vulnerability. Yeah. So vulnerability for me, and this is something that Brené Brown shares, is not oversharing. Vulnerability with discernment. And discernment is about wisdom. So vulnerability is not, and it's hard because I don't know exactly the circumstances, but so this may or may not resonate or be true for you, but vulnerability is not necessarily just opening up and sharing everything. Yeah? It's actually going, okay, you know what? Vulnerability might be, I don't have all this handled right now and I don't have the answers and I know that you really want them and I know you're looking for certainty from me, but I can't provide that right now. But what I can do is give you time and help you understand what's really going on here. Are we here? Okay, I think we're here. I apologise. Something just happened to the internet, dropped out for about a minute. So you might have had some reflection time. So I think we're all good. Just give me in the chat box to make sure you can hear me again, because we did get disconnected for a moment there. So I just want to make sure that you're here. Okay. We're all back. Okay, great. So where was I? So so vulnerability is about discernment as much as it is about being open. So I tend to use the word being open or open-hearted as opposed to always using the word vulnerability. So I ask you to bring your wisdom and your discernment to how much you share and what you share with who. So remember, vulnerability is just not opening and sharing your whole self. It's not your responsibility to do that. It's your opportunity to do this work, to know what's wise and what you want to share, yeah? So that your energy is clean and that you feel in a space of self-trust. Because sometimes when we share, we're looking for a certain reaction from others. And when you're in this space of self-trust and like an anchor, call self-trust an anchor within us, it doesn't matter how they react. And if they want to hold it against us, that's their problem. We'll just keep being amazing, right? Just keep being your awesome self and doing this work and build the depth of foundation within you of self-trust that nothing can shake you. Yeah? That's the work. All right. I hope that helps. Okay, let me know if this is making sense, because the last piece I want to give you here is, this is about expression, yeah? And this is about embracing. So remember I said this was about embracing your emotions to be your most powerful self. So be emotionally current, do the work to be emotionally current, powerful. Make your choices and take 100% responsibility. Where do you want to invest yourself? What feels good to you, what doesn't? Where are you going to draw your boundaries and go, you know what, I don't want you to bring that energy to me anymore, that doesn't work for me. But you're doing it from a clean place, not judging them or making them wrong, but honouring them as a human being, that they have their own journey and it doesn't work for us to be in this space while you feel like that. Yeah? So that can work sometimes at home. You might not always have that opportunity at work. You might have to deal with a situation. Then it just comes down to a real conversation about what works and doesn't work for both of you. I promise you it is possible. There are no exceptions to any of this work. You know, people will come to me, but what about this, but what about this? Yep, I get it, and there's no exceptions. It's about doing the work, yeah? Not always easy to hear. Are we good? And then the sweet spot in here, which is kind of small, interesting shape, this is embodiment, yeah? Here. So when you're doing this consistently over time, and you're in expression and you're embracing, which I love this because this is kind of like the foundation, embracing, and then we're able to express, then we're in this space, beautiful space of embodiment. And that is the dance of being human, of being a powerful, emotional, beautiful, feeling, influential human being that can hold people accountable and build trust at the same time in any situation and in any environment with anyone. And so that is your gold here. Hopefully that's helping you. And I've got 3.5 minutes, right? So give me some feedback and let me know. And I want to share one thing with you as we finish. So I am really appreciative of everyone's been jumping on these webinars. Thank you so much. I've had a brilliant time, and we're going to be going to monthly soon. So we might do 1 or 2 more fortnightly, and then we're going to be going monthly, and they will remain free for you to just dial in. And I'll be bringing some new and exciting guests on as well, so that's going to be really fun. I've got some things lined up for you to help you grow even more in what you're looking to do in your life. I also do one-on-one coaching, which you know, and I wanted to share something with you about a new program we're launching. Now, this is because we've had so many people coming on this journey with us over the last 12 months and now doing these webinars that are looking for more, and so, but aren't in a position to maybe do a one-on-one coaching program with me, and also, but really want to be a part of a deeper dive, because this is one level, right? Imagine when you get this out of a webinar, what might be possible for you in a different program. So this is, I'll be sending you information. I just wanted to let you know that we're launching this new program. It's exciting to me because I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And so this program is called Breakthrough to Bold, and it's going to be a group coaching program with live, it's all going to be online, live webinars because of the COVID situation. We're not sure of what that looks like. So this year it's going to be online, and I'm capping it at 18 people because I just want to figure out, you know, what you want, what's needed, and how that's going to work together online. So I'll be sending out some information, but if you'd like some information around that, let me know. This is the first time I've shared any of this on a webinar or at any of my events, but I really wanted to let you know that this is possible for you. And I had some things that I had to say that Georgie told me that it was really important to let you know. I think that's right. One thing Georgie said I had to let you know was make sure that I tell you that I haven't told this to anyone yet. I wanted to share it with you first, our Brekkie community, because I know that you've been journeying with us for so long and that this might be something that you're now ready for. So if that sounds of interest, let us know in the chat box, but we'll also be sharing that information with you later. So I'd love to hear your comments about, has this been helpful? Give me a thumbs up, give me a yes as we start to head into signing off. I'm going to finish up now. Thank you so much for being here. High five to you. Hope this is helpful. Do some reflection over the weekend and enjoy, and let me know how it's helping you. I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.